Lauber, Vince Mercuri, in the studio with us this morning. And if they're here, we must be talking about the MARTI Institute. Gentlemen, good morning.
And the open door. Good morning.
And the open
good
door.
Morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. That's it.
It's good to have you both with us. Eric, let's start with you. MARTI Institute, you've got a big deal coming up, don't you?
We have one of several things coming up. Sure, we've got this big event with the Open Door that we're co-sponsoring called the Heart of a Champion Awards. The event will be March 27th downtown at the Indiana Theater. We're asking people to make a $100 donation online or with a check to the Open Door, and then they'll get 2 tickets to the event. We've got a pretty nice lineup. We have a gentleman named Tim Grealish, who's a recovery comedian. He's both an intervention specialist, but also very funny, talks very openly and honestly about what he went through. And we also have some really wonderful door prizes for folks who come that evening. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of that event. But if they want to find out more information, they can go to heartofachampionawards.com. That's the website. Mm-hmm. Right, Vince?
Oh, yeah, we're really excited about this opportunity to, again, partner with MARTI Institute and IUP with this fundraiser to really, just keep trying to meet the needs of the community. These are services, both the prevention stuff that MARTI heads up at IUP, and then the crisis and the treatment services that we do at the Open Door, really just kind of responding to what folks need to help them learn how to live, how to be better parents, how to be better community members with regard to the services that we offered. And this has just been a great relationship that we've established over the last year and a half with MARTI and IUP, just to try to raise some of the funds to help underwrite the cost of both of the services of what we do. And we're really excited about this comedian. Dr. Lauber mentioned Tim Grealish. He's really funny. It goes nationwide and does presentations, and he's been very supportive of our cause, and look forward to that evening. And it's our way of thanking the public. This event that night is people just need to, that have bought a day, and people will be able to show up that evening and buy a day. But then it's just sit back and enjoy the evening.
Yeah, there's food provided by Donatello's.
Yes,
Drew Kimmel's been really helpful with that and come forward and helped us with all the fundraising for that. So
yeah. Now, Vince, you just mentioned bought a day. Explain that concept.
Well, buy a day, to buy a day basically is, for someone to be in treatment for a normal course of treatment, estimate the cost is around $2,500 a day for about a 3-month period, okay? And what the buy a day does is it buys prevention, an hour of prevention to help underwrite those costs, and then it also helps to provide services for clients of ours who maybe have some financial need, or just helps us to underwrite our cost to the Open Door to provide services as well. So it's a way that people can support the Open Door and say, hey, I'm purchasing a day of treatment for somebody at the Open Door by providing this $100 a day.
$2,500 for the 3-month treatment.
Correct.
Yeah. I think you said by day, but that's
$25.
For the 3-month treatment.
Yeah. I think the fact that you have a comedian coming in to talk about it, that you have the actual MARTI Institute, the Open Door, shows how with the opioid crisis, with addiction as a whole, the whole idea is just surround the darn thing and attack it from multiple angles. Yeah,
one of the groups that Vince is the chairman of the Overdose Task Force here in Indiana County. It's very active. It's a wonderful group of people who've come together. I couldn't even list all the people there because it's so big, that all collaborate to try to fight this crisis together, and that includes the state police, the local police, the DA,
the coroner's
office,
the sheriff,
Kami Anderson's group from the Armstrong Indiana Clear and Drug and Alcohol Commission, who also do wonderful prevention work. Just all the treatment providers are there. We have a lot of some mental health folks show up, so it's everybody trying to come together at the table to fight this.
Yeah, about 3.5 years ago, actually, the coroner, Jerry Overman, contacted Kami Anderson at the Drug and Alcohol Commission and said, with these deaths that are rising due to the opiate epidemic, is there anything that we can do? And so, again, the Drug and Alcohol Commission really provided the energy, the funding, and the wherewithal to pool all of these stakeholders together. I mean, the thing that I love about this community is that you can pull the stakeholders together rather quickly. We all have each other's cell phone numbers. We can get together to sit down, talk about strategies. Eric's been instrumental in helping to get the message out against stigma, to help educate the public about different things with addiction. So again, between the Drug-Free Coalition, which is a coalition that is now meeting quarterly, and the Overdose Task Force, which is meeting monthly with some oversight from the University of Pittsburgh, they're providing some leadership for that as well, and some resources. We've really addressed that, and we feel that collectively we've been very impactful. We've reduced the overdose deaths, as you've seen. That's been in the paper. It's been on the radio recently. We've reduced the over 50% over the last couple years. 40-some% just within the last year. From 2016 to now, it's clearly over 50% that we've reduced. Again, collectively, there's been a reduction in the overdoses.
Now, Erik, a couple of years ago, you were here in the studio, and you said, we're forming this thing called the MARTI Institute. And I remember you handing me a nice little folder that explained what the MARTI Institute was. From that day to this day today, tell me about the MARTI Institute, the progress that you've made.
Well, what I handed you was the opioid prevention project that we were kicking off. Now, the MARTI Institute's been around for more than 20 years. Yeah, it's been a long time. And they've been in this area doing addiction research and also doing training for providers, treatment providers, for a long time in the summer. But we said that we needed to do more. And we have a lot of expertise on campus that could be tapped to do local kinds of things. So this prevention project launched. So we have, for example, a brand new website called talkaboutaddiction.tv. We put that up by ourselves. We shoot people on video all over the place talking about addiction, and we put that out there on social media and anywhere else that we can get people to watch these videos. We do a research project where we survey the community to understand what they think addiction is. And this is where I was really surprised is how many different views there are on addiction, and people are not on the same page. I mean, there's a lot of diversity. Some of it I would like to kind of nudge in a certain direction. I don't think people have a fundamental understanding of how this is a rewiring of the brain, that when you get this, it's a chronic condition. It's something that you don't know is happening to you until it's too late, and then you find yourself in dire straits because now you have to recognize denial is part of the disease, and so it's years down the road sometimes you find out, wow, I might have a real problem here. But by that point, you're probably pretty deep into it. So there's a lot of misunderstandings about addiction, and we're out there trying to prevent all that. And then we do the parent workshops, where we've done about 20 of them in the last year at all the school districts in the area, trying to get parents to understand that this can become a problem early on. Teen years, even the tween years, the 8 to 10 to 14-year-old, people start to experiment. And then for some kids, this is going to develop into a real problem down the road. And we want parents to be aware of that. Today is not the same world they grew up in. That's our fundamental message. 2019 is not like 1999 in terms of chemistry and what's around, the prescription drugs, the availability. The cost is cheaper for heroin today than it was 20 years ago. It's just amazing how many changes have occurred. So that's part of the messaging we're trying to get out there.
Even marijuana has changed chemically to the point where it's a much more potent brand that's being grown today than was 5 years ago, 10, 15.
It's not even close.
Not even close.
The impact that happens on the body. There's this fallacy today out there that, marijuana is harmless, and that's just not true. That's a very conflicted message, not only for our clients, but these 12-year-olds that Erik's referencing. People are beginning that marijuana is just nothing wrong with that. And they'll say, well, it's not as harmful as heroin, or it's not as harmful as alcohol. And some of that is true, but you're really comparing poisons. You're comparing strychnine to arsenic, as I like to say to people. And so there's a lot of solid research out there that substantiates that marijuana lowers people's IQ, especially in adolescence. It definitely has cognitive recall issues and learning issues and reflex. And even out west with Colorado and Washington State, the experiments since 2012 at this point, I believe, there's an increase in impaired driving. There's an increase in some industrial accidents because people aren't as sharp. They're not as on the ball with regard when they're using marijuana. And then it creates some workplace issues. That some of that's still playing out as long as it's a Schedule I drug. And as we sit here today, it is federally a Schedule I drug. That does give some employers the authority to set some policies around that. But once it's not a Schedule I drug anymore federally, that's really going to open up the door for some confusion. So there's a lot of misinformation out there today about marijuana. And as you mentioned, Todd, it's so much more potent. This isn't the marijuana that people were smoking in the 70s and 80s, not even close.
Well, and I have to bring up vaping because that's where a big concern of mine is, because a lot of the people that were vaping are the young people. And we saw a 900% increase in vaping in just a few years, and then it doubled again, and then it doubled again. And in these vape pens now, they have THC in them. That's the critical chemical for marijuana. And I just saw a graph that showed that sometimes the amount of THC can be 80 to 90% of that capsule. Wow. You think you smoked a joint in the 60s, it was 1% THC. And nowadays that's climbed to 12, 15, maybe even 20% THC in the marijuana joint, but you can put it in a vape pen and distill it down. You can have 50%, 70%, 90% THC. We have no idea what that does to you because we've never done any research on that. Yeah. We've done research on joints from the 60s, but we've never done research on 90% THC going into your body.
It's interesting that we're in the middle of what has been a very, very long fight, but it feels like we're only at the beginning of it.
Yeah. Well, there's just so many mixed messages. You have the opiate epidemic, and then, try to smoke a cigar or a cigarette somewhere in this country, and you're segregated. So we're gaining momentum here that it is going to be more accepted to be smoking marijuana somewhere than it is to be smoking tobacco somewhere, which, again, both are harmful, but it's just an interesting dichotomy of confusion. And I really think we're at a watershed moment where 15 years from now, I always think about 15 years from now, what are we going to be saying about what we're doing today? Mm-hmm. Just like in 2000, people believed opiates weren't addicted. As hard as that is to believe, that's what people believed in 2000. And 19 years later, we're like, well, that was a ridiculous thought and a philosophy. I think we're going to be doing that in, whatever it is, 2035, be saying, can you believe that in the 2018 to 2020s, we were pretending that marijuana was harmless when the lungs, we haven't even talked about the lungs on the human body, what marijuana does, the carcinogenics that's involved. So.
I sort of get the idea that we could go on for another hour here, but we're out of time now.
Yeah, I understand.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Again, information on the event coming up next Wednesday, the 27th.
Yes. Yeah, they can meet us at the Downtown Indiana Theater for $100 to buy a day. They get entrance in there, a couple of tickets, door prizes, comedian. HeartOfAChampionAwards.com is the website to go to.
The event is at 5:30. It's going to be like 5:30 to 7 o'clock. And again, food from Donatelli's. Drew Kimball has been great with offering to provide all of the food for that evening.
Downtown Indiana Theater, right?
Yep.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. And the website you mentioned, Eric, was?
HeartOfAChampionAwards.com.
People want to know more about the open door events. What do they need
All
to do?
they have to do is call 724-465-2605 if they're looking for some type of an assessment or evaluation. But more importantly, for our crisis, it's 877-333-2470. They can call that 24/7. There is somebody there to talk about them. And then there's obviously our website at theopendoor.org. You can look at our website and see all of our services
Thank
there
you,
as well.
gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.